Firstly, my friends and others, just before I plunge into the mercifully short sermon that I have prepared and wrapped like an unwelcome gift on your front lawn, I wish to express my immense and hearty congratulations on the sterling response to the Eastern Continent appeal last week. Those who were absent last week missed a treat, unlike this week. Brian Siddon, a local preacher from the neighbouring Enemy Circuit, showed a series of pictorial slides of the starving and dishevelled. Some of you were so moved and appalled by what you saw, aghast that it could happen in this modern day and age, that is, the laborious task of showing slides on a 35mm projector, that you offered, spontaneously and without thought of self, to convert them to DVD. Brian was so moved he could hardly speak. It is fair to say that the generosity of this church knows no beginning. So in the same seasonal spirit of giving and taking, we have congealed here today on this most joyous of days, the pinnacle of the Christian calendar, Christmas Day. Some of you will dispute the fact that Christmas is the be-all and end-all of the church year, preferring instead to consider Easter as the pivotal event. Indeed, some see Christmas as little more than a pagan festival, dressed up with religious significance, as though Jesus' birthday could be moved about to suit the agenda of others. However, one day the truth will be known, because we can all remember the date of our own birthday, can we not? If you're like me, you might be hazy on the exact details of other people's birthdays, but you should be able to remember your own birthday as surely as night follows day. If you ask any young boy when the fire of London was, he might not be able to tell you that it was 1066, but if you ask him when his birthday is, he will surely answer. One day, friends, we will stand before the throne of Jesus. The cherubim and the seraphim will be there, and the angels and the archangels, and the glory of the risen Lord will astound and dazzle. And on that occasion, bold I'll approach the eternal throne, and I'll ask Jesus when his birthday is. Now, I'm not a subscriber to the idea that Christmas was simply dropped onto the occasion of a pagan winter celebration, just like a hot potato, but I do know that others see the merit of this approach. Indeed, I read recently of a Christian group in Somerset who are keen to incorporate bonfire night into the church calendar, and they've looked through the Bible to find images of fire and burning. They've settled on renaming the event as Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego Night, having rejected the alternative concept of Hell Night. Thus, there are three characters sitting atop of a pile of pallets and branches. The flaw, as I see it in their plan, is that in the biblical account, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego are actually saved from peril by God. And if I'm honest, I don't see God mustering up the enthusiasm to protect countless effigies of characters that very few people can remember the names of, like the winner of last year's X Factor competition. But, as is frequently my vice, I digress from the central topic and have thus already encouraged half of you to think about your Christmas dinner. And now, having mentioned your Christmas dinner, it's a racing certainty that everyone is now thinking about their Christmas dinner. And that's my point. For this morning, I want to explore an age-old mystery that has baffled biblical scholars since time immemorial, which is this: are sprouts biblical? Are sprouts biblical? The short answer is no. And I could stop my sermon here and we could all go home happy. But for those with a love of unearthing biblical truths, I want to make 2 points about the Brussels sprout that may lead us to determine whether it was part of God's created order or whether it is indeed a consequence of living in a broken world as a result of Adam's sin. Firstly, there is the simple fact that they are not mentioned in the Bible. Now, this may not seem conclusive evidence on first consideration, but let me give you a list of some of the vegetables and fruits listed in the Bible, and while you may not be overwhelmed, nor underwhelmed, it is my expectation still that you will be whelmed generally. In Numbers we read, "We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the leeks and the onions and the garlic." In Genesis, "If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the choice fruits of the land in your bags and carry a present down to the man, a little balm, a little honey, gum, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds." The writer of the Song of Songs, on the other hand, is seemingly obsessed with melons. Coriander is mentioned in the Bible, as are mint, mustard, apples, figs, olives, raisins, and beans. Sprouts are not mentioned. What does that tell you? I do not think I am overstepping the mark when I suggest that it means they are an abomination, the green warts of the devil himself, and destined for the fires of hell. Indeed, moreover, if heaven is a land where milk and honey flow, full of good things, then hell may indeed be a place where the tormented have nothing to eat but sprouts. Let that be a warning to all. And secondly, friends, the conclusive evidence, as I see it, that sprouts are not part of the Almighty's plans, is that at the end of the 6th day, when God made all the animals, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and he'd covered the land with vegetarians, he sat back, looked at it all, and declared that it was good. Indeed, on the 3rd day alone we read, "Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds. And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seeds, and according to their kinds, trees bearing fruit with seed in it, according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good." And God saw that it was good. Now, God cannot be fooled. Sprouts cannot stay hidden from the eyes of the Almighty, because we read in Jeremiah, "Who can hide in secret places so I cannot see them, declares the Lord. Do not I fill heaven and earth?" God fills heaven and earth, and he would be able to see sprouts, even those hiding in allotments. And if he'd seen sprouts, he would not have been able to declare so fulsomely that it was good. Rather, the Bible would have had to concede that God saw that it was good, except for the sprouts. And then in Genesis 3, we see once the sin has been committed, the punishment meted out on the created order. And this is the true origin of the Brussels sprout. "And he said to the man, You listen to your wife and ate the fruit which I told you not to eat. Because of what you have done, the ground will be under a curse. You will have to work hard all your life to make it produce enough food for you. It will produce weeds and thorns, and you will have to eat wild plants. You will have to work hard and sweat to make the soil produce anything." The curse by God meant that as well as good foods, there are also weeds and thorns, wild plants, and by implication, sprouts. You may recall that St. Peter, anguishing over what things could be eaten and what things couldn't, was given a vision of a sheet descending, and on this sheet were all manner of things that surprised Peter, all kinds of four-footed animals, wild beasts, creeping things, and so forth. Here was an opportunity for God to declare that sprouts, although not technically an animal, were clean. He chose not to include them on the menu. Peter was told, "Rise, kill and eat." If sprouts had been on the sheet, it might have been problematic trying to kill them, but my wife Sandra makes a good attempt at this by boiling them for an hour. There will not be sprouts in the new order, in the world to come. In the meantime, friends, we try and sanctify them as much as we can by marking each and every one of them with the sign of the cross. I hope that this is helpful as your thoughts turn to preparing the Christmas dinner. If you've already bought sprouts, feeling that it is in some way traditional to punish your family at this festive time, then I have a foolproof way of dealing with the problem which you might find helpful. Last year, Sandra, realising that she couldn't order a fully cooked Christmas dinner over the internet, resorted to making it instead, and thus asked me to peel the sprouts. The usual way would be to cut the base off and then peel 1 or 2 layers off the outside edge. My tip is this: just keep peeling. Peel, peel, peel. And then in the end, friends, you will have an enormous pile of peelings with nothing but satisfaction to show for it. Sandra was aghast, and again she showed me the face she pulls that reminds me of that painting by Edward Munch entitled The Scream. Children and adults alike, I hope that your Christmas day is filled with fun, laughter, good food, wine, bad jokes from crackers. And may you and your families be blessed by the Trinity of God, Father, Son, and Holy Sprout. Amen.